I'm painting 3 Christmas cards. I'm just going to use Cerulean. I just love the colour of Cerulean. It's such a beautiful, pretty colour. So I'm just going to make a big puddle. It's really important if you're painting a large area, always mix up more paint than you think you need. What you don't want to do is run out halfway and then have to make up more paint. Meanwhile, your painting is drying in places, and it can be problematic applying wet paint then once you've mixed it up to damp paint which has been drying. That's where you can get cauliflowers. I'm going to use clean water to wet the sky like so. Sometimes it's easier to paint wet into wet than it is to paint wet on dry large areas. And I'm just painting around the tree. You don't have to paint right up to the tree or wet right up to the tree. I'll do that with my brush loaded with Cerulean. But I can paint over that star because it's been protected by the masking fluid. And I'm just painting down to the snow here as well. So I'm going to use a large brush, load that brush with Cerulean, and just paint freely, wet into wet on the sky area. Keep loading that brush like so. Just painting up to the edge of the tree. That's the bit where I've got to be careful. So I'm just working my way around here, and as you can see, I've actually masked out some snow in the sky as well coming down. So you could mask out stars if you wanted to. Just going to swap now to a smaller brush, a little bit more fiddly here. Again, load that brush and then paint right up to the edge of the tree, like so. Okay, load the brush again and paint up to the edge of the tree. I want some really nice clean lines here. So just take your time. Use the tip of the brush. Go on with a nice fully loaded brush. You'll get the best results that way. So just cutting in here like so. Use that tip of the brush, there we are, and then come down to the snow there. It doesn't have to be a completely straight line, and all I need to do now is to allow it to dry. Meanwhile, I'm going to paint my next picture, which is Father Christmas and some reindeer. So I'm going to mix up a dark colour. Now what shall I use? Do you know, I think I'm going to use Ultramarine and Paynes Grey mix, but you could use Paynes Grey on its own if you wanted to, or any dark will do, even black, whatever you fancy. It doesn't have to be what I have used. So here, well, here's my Ultramarine. I'm not going to waste that Cerulean. I'm going into the Cerulean, so waste not, want not, and I am going to use some of the Paynes Grey. So it's bluey sort of grey sky. There we are. Remember, large area, large brush, large puddle, plenty of paint so you don't run out. Could even use a bit of phthalo blue. Look, I'm even rebelling against my own colours there. What am I like? I can't help it. Now this is an easy one. When I say easy, I don't have to paint around anything fiddly. I can just get my large brush and just paint the whole of the picture there. Everything has been protected by the masking fluid. Just had this sort of flash of inspiration. I might do the tops of trees at the bottom there, so it looks like the sleigh and Father Christmas and the reindeer are way up in the sky. I love that idea. It's great though, when you get a reference photograph, don't feel like you have to copy it. You do your own thing. I encourage it. So whatever I do and you want to use a different colour, do it. I always like to try different things. Look at the paint flows. It's lovely, isn't it? Really load that brush, and that masking fluid is protecting the positive shapes. I've decided to use some sap green mixed with Paynes Grey, so you get a lovely dark green. I'm going to use a small brush, and I'm going to load that brush with that creamy paint. Take the excess off. I'm just painting the tops of the trees here. Vary the heights. Some taller, some shorter, and this is damp into wet. So the paint is damp, it's not wet, but the surface here is wet. And remember, take the excess paint off as well. So I'm just going along here and just start at the bottom like that, press down and then lift off, press down, lift off. So you get more of a point at the edge there. And then take the excess off, and you could just at the top there have some of those trees, just creating some foliage there. I'm getting a bit carried away. This is supposed to be a simple Christmas card. I can't help myself. But it's fun, isn't it? It's just fun. That's what I encourage you to do. You be creative. I have made a decision, just because I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm going to use some salt. So I'm just using table salt here, and I'm sprinkling it onto my hand. Now my advice is you literally almost want to get little grains of salt to drop into the sky. You're literally putting, I'm putting more than 1 grain, but just a couple, not many. If it doesn't go right, you can always use white paint, and I'm going to allow that to dry naturally. So while these 2 paintings are drying, I'm going to paint my 3rd Christmas card, which is the winter scene inside the bauble. So I'm going to start off with painting the whole scene with some of this light green. So just paint up to the edge there. You can be quite free over the tree. Remember, you've got your masking fluid there. That's the positive shapes. My background here is the sky and the grasses. That's what's bringing the tree out around that tree, like so. Carefully, I'm just going to turn my painting upside down. Just paint up to that edge there. I am going to use some Aussie red gold, but you could use quinacridone gold, and it's just to paint some of the detail here. Wet on dry, meant to create a little highlight here, so I'm just going to lift it out with a clean damp brush. And I'm just going to use my card trick, as I call it, using that Aussie red gold or quinacridone gold if you want to use that. I'm just painting the edge of a card, the length of what the string is, so it's got like gold string, and it's just to print that. It's quite a thick card, so it'll create a nice effect. I might do it the other way, so it's there. Move that and just line it up like so. Hopefully this works. And then print and lift. Oh, that's not too bad. It's quite a nice way of creating thin lines if you're like me and you're not very good at thin lines, which I'm not. I'm putting some shading here to the left. I'm going to do the same on the ring. There we are. It's got a touch of burnt sienna there as well. I think I've gone a bit off centre with my string. Of course I have. Never mind. Let's mix up a darker green. So again, just painting here, wet on dry beneath my clouds here, and just paint up to the field there. So I'm just painting carefully, loading my brush as well, turning my painting here upside down. It just makes it easier to access areas. You don't have to paint the right way up. I'm just making sure I don't put my hand in the paint, which I'm well known for. So just painting right up to the edge of the bauble there. So I'm going to give that another blow dry. I'm going to take off the masking fluid. Use a putty rubber, masking tape, the sticky side down, and then just pull off the masking fluid. See, it comes off quite nicely. And hopefully it'll come off nicely. It has. Sometimes you can actually peel it off like this, which I love, when you put it on quite thick. What I'm going to do now for this one is just add a little bit more detail, a bit of artistic license. Going back to the Paynes Grey and Ultramarine, I'm going to water it down a little bit more. I'm just painting wet on dry the Paynes Grey and Ultramarine, rinsing my brush and then just using a clean damp brush just to push up to the edge there. What they have got in the photograph as well around the edge of the bauble is a little bit of shadow, so I'm just painting that there. Again, using a clean damp brush, work up to the edge of the bauble like so, blend and soften. So oh I'm not sure if that was a happy accident or not, so maybe a little bit of yellow in my cloud, not to worry. And again, just do the same thing with this field here, just separate it and blend and soften with a clean damp brush. Going back with the Ultramarine and Paynes Grey, breaking up that field there, might turn this sideways and just again blend and soften. You could also just go round to the edge of the bauble here, even though it's not in the photograph, might be quite nice. Almost gives it a glass-like effect. And again, just soften and blend there using a clean damp brush. Might use a bit of shadow here, just underneath the clouds. I'm getting a bit carried away. This is supposed to be a simple Christmas card. Do you know I forgot to take the moon off? Sorry about that. Let's take that moon off. There. So I'm going to use some Aqua Bronze by Schmincke, and it's just like this gold powder that you add water to create a lovely gold paint. So as you can see, I'm just getting a little bit of gold. It's not as scary as brush show, trust me. I'm just adding it there and use a little bit of clean water. And look, hey presto, it turns it into a beautiful gold paint. I was going to spatter with it, or maybe not. I have not decided. You could use a little bit on the string and the gold brass clasp here. Spatter, that's quite nice. There. It gives it a little bit of sparkle on our bauble. It may go in the background a little, I'm not worried about that. It's got a lovely shimmery effect there, which is quite nice. So lastly, I'm going to take off Father Christmas and the reindeer and sleigh. So again, I'm using the putty rubber. The salt didn't work that well in the sky. That's absolutely fine. Let's just take off the masking fluid. So as you can see here, I have got Father Christmas and the reindeer with the sleigh. I think I'll finish off with a spatter of white. I'm using Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white. You can use white gouache, white watercolour, white acrylic ink, whatever white you have. Or you can mask it out before you do the painting. It's entirely up to you. And then using clean water with your white, you just need to add a tiny bit of water in there, not much. You want it milky, not watery. And I'm just going to spatter that now. It might go on my other pictures as well, but just spattering that gently onto the little painting, little Christmas card. And I always say if there are any dodgy bits, spatter there as well. But I do like the way my salt has worked. And you can see how important the background is, masking out the positive shapes. It really brings out those positive shapes. Now, I'm very tempted, as usual, I can't help myself, just to spatter this one here. I feel the green sky is a bit strong, so I'm just going to use some white paint. It might be too much. It could almost be like a snow globe, couldn't it? So let's do the big reveal. This is my favourite bit. And just pulling off the tape, and it just makes everything look a little bit better. So I'm really pleased with these 3 simple Christmas cards demonstrating the importance of negative space and how it really brings out the positive shapes. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.